All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Mrs. Koo, the ninth grade English teacher here at LMA. I am super excited that today we have a guest speaker who is going to be teaching us about digital storytelling in order to bring more expertise to our digital narrative project that we're all working on. I'm going to turn things over to Michelle to introduce our speaker for today.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our first ever TIE Talk for the school year. Today we have Mr. Cesar Ordiano, who is a digital media administrator for TUSD, and let's please give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you, Mrs. Koo, and thank you, LMA, for having me over here today. I'm very excited to be able to visit and share my experience with digital media and storytelling. I am Tustin Unified School District's digital media administrator. I work on all the videos that if you've seen that's been sent out throughout the district. That's something that I have a great passion for. And I think one of the wonderful things that is great to participating in digital storytelling is the fact that it gives you an opportunity to share your voice. Everybody has different perspectives, different life experiences, and using media to tell that story really gives people an insight into who you are. And it allows you guys to create something that is truly unique and special and gives your perspective. So I'm going to be sharing, if you haven't had any experience with video production or been taught in any formal way, we move through digital storytelling in 3 phases. They're called the phases of production. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the phases of production are known as pre-production, production, and post-production. Whether it's a large motion picture or a small home video, these steps always take place. The first step you'll be taking will be pre-production. This is the planning phase. This is where you make use of storyboards, shot lists, sit down with who your client is, or even if you're just sitting down with yourself to think about what is your video going to be about. It allows you to kind of brainstorm and get it all out on paper so that you know what you're going to be working on and what your objective is. The other most important thing about it is just who is your target audience? Who is going to digest this media and how is it going to benefit them, or what unique perspective are you going to be able to share through this? So when you do make a plan, it doesn't need to be complicated or perfect. When it comes to production, one thing is true: it will change. Even when you have the perfect idea, sometimes there are outside elements or outside environmental elements that change what's going to happen. And you have to be adjustable. I want to show you guys a good thing to do with your pre-production is a storyboard and a paper edit. So I know you may not see clearly here, but this is a storyboard. And what this is a bunch of squares. And these are visual representations of what's going to take place throughout your digital narrative. This could be hand-drawn. This could be just GIFs, this could be just screenshots, or it could just be things you've downloaded from the internet. It allows you to kind of put some thought on how your story is going to be told, or what your audience is going to see, and what the sequence of images are going to be shown to people. And so when you do a storyboard, you should give a visual image and then a little small description of what you think that's going to be. And storyboards are just there as a guideline, and it will and most likely will change. What I have to the right is also a shot list. And on the shot list, it's good to look at your storyboard, and for each square of your storyboard, you should have about 3 to 4 shots of that section of your storyboard. So on the right-hand side, I have, and I'll share this with Mrs. Koo so you can share it with everyone else. On the right-hand side, I have, what storyboard panel it is, what kind of shot, whether it's a wide shot, medium shot, or close-up shot, and then the description of a shot. Like, this was a video about how to make avocado toast. So here's this wide shot of avocados and toast, medium shot of avocados, medium shot of toast, close-up of avocados, close-up of toast, so on and so forth. So you give yourself a plan, and you almost kind of make yourself a checklist, so that when you're on production, you're in your production phase, you could check off each thing as you go down the list, and you make sure you got it. And you won't use every single shot, but when in post-production, it will save you when you don't have the shot you wanted or thought that would work together. You'll have the variety, and that will help you make your edit that much more seamless. On the right-hand side, I'll add notes like change the angle of the shot from a wide angle, get low to the avocado, like take a unique perspective for that shot. So those are examples of the storyboard and paper edit, and I'll share that again with Mrs. Q. Let's move on to production. So when it comes to production, and here's the beauty that you guys have in your generation, your cell phones are so good at taking video. When I first started video production, I don't even think you guys know VHS, but we had VHS tapes. And I had to use a camera that was like this big, and I was holding it like this, and that was my life. And I was having to do what's known as linear editing, which means I got 2 tape decks and recorded from one to the other. And now you guys have everything digital on your cell phone. You're shooting in 4K. Everyone likes to say 4K. Yes, you have 4K on your phone, and you could take high quality video on a device that fits in your pocket. And using that cell phone, or even if you have a device, depending on what you're going to be using for this project, you can take some really great shots. I'm going to be showing you some examples in a couple slides about, this is known as the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds guide, it's basically the standard guide for most people, for all people really, to use when you're framing your subjects in the shot. The guide can be turned on your phone. Most phones have this as an option to turn on your rule of thirds guide, and you're going to put your subjects on any of these kind of intersection spots, so any of those 4. And if you want to be a little abstract, you'll put your subject, like this subject facing right, you'll put them on this side, and they'll look a little different. But it's better to practice the rules before you start breaking them. So you'll want to stick to your subjects. If your subject is facing to the right, put them on the left-hand side, and vice versa. So if they're facing left, put them on the right-hand side. Same thing if you're doing interviews. So you'll want to place them on the right or the left, looking the other way. That's called look space. These are the type of shots. If you haven't studied video production, we always talk about the amount of subject you see in the framing when we talk about shots. So you have very wide shots, extreme wide shots. That would be like architecture footage, like you have a building, you're getting all the building, people will walk in and out. That's extremely wide shots. Then you have medium shots or wide shots of head to toe. It's normally your regular wide shot. Your medium shot will be about here. And then you have medium close-up, and extreme close-up. These are also other angles and camera movements. Again, you could see the different shot sizes. And another thing you could do and play with is shot angles. And there's a little bit of psychology behind shot angles. When you want to make your subject feel that you're in the equal plane or you're involved with your subject, you're going to want to shoot eye level. And that's for the most part that when we shoot and we want to share someone's story, we're shooting eye levels. Like if I am grabbing footage, and you can tell this always from parents who grab footage of their kids, they always stand up and they shoot down. And they're angling the camera down and they're making your subject look smaller. You're now observing instead of participating. So if you move your camera to the eye level of a child or a student, you're going to go down, and then now you're eye level. If the person is tall and you're doing an interview, you want to move the camera higher so it's eye level. So by doing that, you're in the equal playing field. You're participating in what's taking place. If you want to give your subject, if you're telling a story that somebody's a big person or a big personality, you could angle them up, make them larger in the frame. So you're looking up at them and they're looking down at you. I'm a bigger person. I'm intimidating. I'm stronger. Same thing would be the opposite. Your child would be weaker, or the person face down. You're taking away their presence. When you're shooting your shots, when you enter a scene, and when I say scene, you're going to walk into a situation. I do this when I shoot all the time. I walk in, I go, okay, I'm going to observe what's taking place. I'm going to look around, and I'm going to be like, all right, so I'm going to stick to this side of the room. This is called the 180-degree rule. And the reason why this is important is if you see where it says camera C, A, and B, staying on that 180 arc, when you're editing, your subject that's on the left will always be on the left. And your subject on the right will always be on the right. Now, if you cross that 180-degree rule, you see camera D, it's red. Now you've swapped and inverted the subjects. Now your person on the right is on the left, and the person on the left one is on the right. When it comes to editing and you do that swap and you cross the 180 degree, it can be confusing. It could cause a little bit of a jarring effect, like why is this person just swap? And you get something known as continuity errors, like a jump that doesn't make sense. And even though it may not be super obvious, your brain kind of goes, something's wrong, something's different here. And sometimes this can be done in a creative aspect, like in cinema, people will do that on purpose to kind of confuse people, or kind of people are changing personalities for some reason. Now they swap sides, like, oh, now I'm a different person, or I'm speaking in a different voice, or whatever the case may be. But this is a small rule that we could keep going back on. So when it comes to camera moves, professional camera and professional cinema only moves the camera when it's needed to tell the story. Most of the time you try to lock off your camera or move to your position and hold still. This is important because as storytellers and digital narratives, everything that we're showing the audience has purpose. So why would your camera move if it doesn't have purpose? That's when it feels like it's more amateur. Like, oh, I'm watching this one thing, but the camera's shaky or it's jiggling a little bit. So let the subjects move in and out of frame, or let the subjects actually create the movement. Let the subjects move for themselves. Unless your movement is required. Like say, if you were panning from a sign that says, tryouts, and then you pan down to the person who is trying out, then that makes sense. You're showing that a tryout is taking place, and you're showing that person who's going to try out. This is also important if you don't have what's known as voiceover, somebody who's describing what's taking place. So movement is useful if you're capturing stationary objects. Like for example, I did say sign of a tryout sign, movement from a tryout sign. Or if you have to capture or make use of a still image. Sometimes when you're editing, you're giving a still image. It's nice to add a little bit of movement in that, so that you have something's dynamically happening in the image, in the story. The length of the shot, and this is really important, because this is what could really save you when it comes to editing. Only capture what you need. And it could be as simple, and this is a good rule I always give every student, is count to 5. Just as simple as it seems. Just count 5 seconds. In all my editing, I rarely use shots that are more than 5 seconds unless I'm following somebody, or I'm using the drone, or I'm doing something that is a longer take. But if I am getting a shot of somebody cutting something from a medium shot or a wide shot, count to 5 seconds. I guarantee you'll have your shot. So after you have your 5 seconds, stop recording and get a new angle, because you won't need more than 5 seconds of that. Because you'll want to have variety. That's why you want to get your wide, medium, close-up. So get your 5 seconds, move. Get your 5 seconds, move. So let's talk about post-production tips. So after you've done your pre-production, you've made your storyboard shot list, you've got your plan, you know what you're going to do, and then you've shot what you're going to get by, you're following the rules of third, you're making the 180 rules, you're getting what you need for your story, and you followed your shot list. Now we jump into post-production. Now, when I say, and a good rule is, editing starts in the camera. Again, it goes back to only capture what you need. That way you have a lot less footage to go through as you're in the edit bay. Because the more footage you have, even if you have like 10 minutes or for 25 seconds of a clip and you only use 3 seconds, you're going to have a lot of longer clips and you're only using a small section. And those are resources. Remember, we're still using technology. So the more clips you have on your device and the less you're using, the more resource intensive that project's going to be for your device. So you're bogging down your computer. So if you're concise and succinct with what you're using, the better experience you're going to have in post-production. So after you've captured your footage, you're going to bring it into your computer. I'm going to be showing you guys after this. I create folders for each project. And I try to make it a complete silo, like just this is all one project, like everything I need. The footage, images, music, it's on one folder. I've seen a lot of people who download an image from online and they'll leave it in their downloads folder, and they download music and it's on their desktop, and they have something in my documents and they've imported it into their project. And then when you want to back up that project, you have media that is missing. You have things that are gone. You forgot where you left this one file. So even if you have the file in a different location, but you want to leave it there, make a copy of it and combine it all in one location, so that when you need to back up a project, you just grab that one folder, drag it over, you've backed it all up. You know you have everything. So when you open it, You have no missing files. Because that's the worst feeling, is that you have a project and you open it up and things are missing. Don't rely on transitions. A good story could just be told with cuts alone. Most of you guys seen a feature film, and rarely do you ever see, unless you're Star Wars, a wipe, a dissolve, anything like that. It's always going to be just a straight cut, or something that's known as a natural wipe. A natural wipe would be when a car drives by a character and the car covers the whole frame. Then it cuts something else. That's known as a natural wipe. And if your story is good enough, your audience is paying attention to what's taking place, and they're invested and they're engaged, and they don't even notice the edits. And that's the best editing. So if you can't see the cut, you've done a great job. If you're doing a narrative, or if we're doing like broadcast journalism or a documentary, edit your audio first. This comes to like people you've interviewed, a voiceover. Make sure your timeline is set with your audio, so you know what your story is going to be about and how it sounds on playback, so that you now know what B-roll will be added to that audio. Editing has a lot to do with rhythm too. Like, you want to cut to the music to the beat of the music, and I could show you guys how to mark it. If you do have a journalistic style, you're doing interviews, don't have too much what's known as talking head. That would be your A-roll. When you have interviews, that's the principal camera that you use. You have a lot of A-roll. That's known as talking head. Having too much talking head could bore a viewer. So you want to put a lot of B-roll if possible. And in some situations, it's not available, and you make do with what you have. And then always make use of B-roll that complements the audio. So it wouldn't make sense if, like, I'm talking about children and you're showing chickens, right? Like, you want to make sure you complement what you're saying with the visuals. So we always got to ask yourself, what's the intended purpose of the project? Since we go out to the public, we always check for media release. You guys will have different requirements and different rules, but for us professionally, if we're going to go out, we make sure that everybody has a media release. So we edit it with a voiceover in mind, and then the voiceover is written, recorded, and then finalized. I know I'm running out of time, so yes, right now, I know I went through a lot, and I'd love to show you guys so much more, because I am passionate about this, and I know I only scratched the surface of what you guys could do, but feel free if you have any questions.
Is it a whole team that makes these videos, or is it just you?
So it's myself and the director of communications. So she'll work on the writing for the voiceover. I do a lot of the principal shooting and the editing.